The crystal champagne flute shattered against the marble floor 3 inches from my face. Laughter exploded around me like gunfire. 200 guests in $1,000 suits and designer gowns, all watching as my wife Rebecca turned me into a spectacle at her company's annual gala. Oh God, Mark's so clumsy he can't even stand properly. Her voice carried across the ballroom of the Bradford Grand Hotel, that mocking lilt she'd perfected over 5 years of marriage. Maybe if he spent less time moping and more time at the gym, he wouldn't stumble like a toddler. I hadn't stumbled. She'd stuck her foot out. I'd seen it coming, but was trapped between the dessert table and a group of her colleagues. The tray of champagne I'd been holding, because she'd sent me to fetch drinks like a servant, had gone crashing down. My face burned, not from embarrassment anymore. I'd been humiliated past that particular emotion 18 months ago. No, this was something colder. A calculating rage that had been building since the first time she'd made me the punchline. I straightened slowly, glass crunching under my dress shoes. The shoes I'd polished for 3 hours because she'd screamed that I couldn't embarrass her tonight. Not at the event of the year, hosted by tech billionaire Marcus Bradford, CEO of Bradford Technologies and the richest man in the state. Not when every executive, board member, and social climber in the city was watching. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice flat. The automatic response, the trained SEAL's performance. "Sorry." Rebecca's eyes glittered with something dark and delighted. She wore a crimson Valentino gown that cost more than 3 months of my old salary before she'd convinced me to quit my engineering job to support her career. Her blonde hair was swept up in an elaborate style that had required a stylist to come to our house at 6 in the morning. She looked like a goddess. She was a demon. She turned to the crowd, arms spread wide like a performer. "He's sorry, everyone. Mark is always sorry, aren't you, darling? Sorry for breathing too loud. Sorry for existing in the same space as successful people. Sorry for—" "Rebecca." The voice cut through her performance like a blade through silk. Marcus Bradford himself stood 10 feet away, his 6'3" frame imposing even in the relaxed stance of a man who owned everything in sight. At 52, he had steel grey hair, sharp blue eyes, and the kind of weathered handsomeness that came from years of ruthless business decisions. His Tom Ford tuxedo probably cost more than my car. "Yes, Mr. Bradford?" Rebecca's voice transformed instantly. Syrup sweet, obsequious. The voice she used for people who mattered. "That's enough entertainment for the evening." His eyes flicked to me briefly. Assessment, dismissal, then back to her. "The board members want to discuss the quarterly reports. In the East Salon. Now." It wasn't a request. Rebecca's mask slipped for just a second. Irritation flashed across her face before she caught herself. "Of course. I'll be right there." She turned back to me, her voice dropping to a hiss only I could hear. "Clean this up. Try not to humiliate me further. And for God's sake, stay in the corner until this event is over." She clicked away on 5-inch heels, leaving me standing in a pool of champagne and shattered crystal, while 200 people slowly turned back to their conversations. Their evening's entertainment concluded. I stood there for exactly 10 seconds. Then I walked out, not to the corner, not to clean up, not to wait like a beaten dog for permission to go home. I walked straight through the ballroom, past the shocked faces, past the marble columns and gold leaf ceilings, past the valets and the luxury cars, into the cool October night. My phone buzzed before I'd made it 2 blocks. Rebecca, then again, and again. I pulled it out, saw 17 missed calls, and turned it off. I walked for 3 hours that night, through downtown, past the closed shops and empty parks, along the river where the city lights reflected like fallen stars. My feet ached in the dress shoes. My mind raced. I thought about the last 5 years, how I'd fallen in love with a woman who seemed confident, ambitious, brilliant. How that confidence had slowly transformed into cruelty. How she'd convinced me to quit my job at Morrison Engineering, where I'd been designing sustainable infrastructure systems, work I'd loved, because my hours were interfering with her networking needs. How I'd become the house husband, the support system, the invisible man who made sure her life ran smoothly while she climbed the corporate ladder at Bradford Technologies. How the jokes had started small, gentle teasing about my weight, my clothes, my boring personality, then sharper, meaner, until they became a routine part of social gatherings, until her friends expected the show, until I stopped being a person and became a prop in her performance of superiority. I thought about my sister Emily. She died 3 years ago, a drunk driver, sudden and devastating. Emily had been my best friend, my anchor. She'd seen what Rebecca was becoming and tried to warn me 6 months before the accident. "Mark, she's breaking you down piece by piece," Emily had said, over coffee, her dark eyes concerned. "You used to light up when you talked about your work. Now you barely speak. Please, just think about what you're giving up." I'd defended Rebecca, said Emily didn't understand the pressure of a demanding career, said I was happy to support my wife's ambitions. 2 weeks later, Emily was gone, killed instantly when a drunk driver ran a red light. Rebecca had been too busy with a work crisis to attend most of the funeral events. She'd shown up for the service itself, spent the entire time on her phone, and complained about the depressing atmosphere on the drive home. That should have been my wake-up call. But grief makes you numb. And numbness makes you vulnerable to routine, to the path of least resistance, until tonight. I walked past my car, a 7-year-old Honda Civic that Rebecca called the embarrassment mobile, and kept going. My mind was crystal clear for the first time in years. At midnight, I stopped at an all-night diner, the kind with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tasted like battery acid. I ordered black coffee and sat by the window, watching the occasional car pass. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I turned it back on. 34 messages, 26 calls. I opened the messages. Rebecca. "Where the hell are you?" Rebecca. "You humiliated me by walking out. People are asking questions." Rebecca. "If you don't answer your phone right now, there will be consequences." Rebecca. "Mark, answer me." Then texts from numbers I didn't recognize. Mutual friends, probably. People she'd recruited to track me down. Unknown. "Hey man, Rebecca's worried. You okay?" Unknown. "Dude, just call your wife. She's freaking out." Unknown. "Whatever happened, just go home and work it out. Don't make it worse." I deleted them all. Then I opened my email and composed a message to Robert Chen, my old boss at Morrison Engineering. We'd kept in touch sporadically. He'd told me 6 months ago that there was always a position for me if I wanted to come back. "Robert, are you still hiring? I'm ready to come back. I can start Monday." Mark. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The reply came at 12:47 a.m. Robert was apparently a night owl. "Mark, hell yes. We've got a major project that needs your expertise. Sustainable bridge design for the new riverfront development. Bradford's company is one of the stakeholders, actually. Salary's 30% higher than what you left at. When can you come in to discuss details?" Bradford's company. The irony was almost funny. I typed back, "Monday morning, 9 a.m. I'll be there." Then I ordered pancakes. I hadn't eaten pancakes in 3 years. Rebecca said they were carb-loaded garbage for people with no self-control. They tasted like freedom. I got home at 2 in the morning. The house, a 4-bedroom colonial that Rebecca's parents had helped us buy, was dark. Her car wasn't in the driveway, still at the gala probably, or at an after-party, drinking expensive wine and telling everyone about her disaster of a husband. I walked inside and started packing. Not everything, just essentials, clothes, laptop, documents. The framed photo of Emily I kept hidden in my desk drawer because Rebecca said, Dwelling on death is depressing. I found the divorce papers in the study. I'd printed them 2 months ago, filled them out, and hidden them behind old tax returns. Tonight, I signed them. Every page. My hand was steady. I left them on the kitchen counter with a note written on the back of a grocery receipt. I'm done being your punchline. These are signed. Your move. M. Then I drove to an extended stay motel near the Morrison Engineering office, checked in, lay on the uncomfortable bed, and for the first time in 5 years, I felt like I could breathe. The phone erupted at 7 a.m. Rebecca, I answered. What the fuck is this? Her voice was shrill, manic. Divorce papers. Are you having a breakdown? Is this because of last night? Mark, everyone makes mistakes. You're being dramatic. I'm being clear, I said. My voice was calm, eerily so. Sign them or don't. I've already talked to a lawyer. This is happening either way. Silence. Then, you can't do this. You need me. You have no job, no money. I start work Monday, at Morrison Engineering. My old position, better salary, I'm fine. You planned this. Her voice cracked. Not with sadness, with disbelief. You actually planned this? No, I said honestly. I just woke up. Sign the papers, Rebecca. It's over. I hung up. She called back 47 times over the next 3 hours. I blocked her number. Then came the messages from mutual friends, the accusations, the attempts at guilt, the people who'd laughed at me last night suddenly playing Switzerland, telling me I was overreacting and throwing away a marriage over one bad night. I blocked them all. By Monday morning, I was sitting in Robert Chen's office, signing employment contracts. The workspace was exactly as I remembered. Glass walls, blueprint tables, the smell of coffee and paper. Home. Good to have you back, Mark, Robert said, shaking my hand firmly. He was 58, Chinese-American, with kind eyes and a reputation for treating his employees like human beings. The team's excited. We missed your instincts on the sustainable designs. Good to be back, I said, and meant it. The divorce process took 6 weeks. Rebecca fought it initially, not because she wanted me back, but because she wanted to control the narrative. She told everyone I'd abandoned her, that I was cruel, that she was the victim. But she signed eventually. Her lawyer probably told her that a prolonged fight would just make her look worse. In the end, she got the house. I got my freedom and half the savings, which wasn't much since she'd spent most of it on clothes, cars, and maintaining appearances. I didn't care. I moved into a small apartment near the engineering firm. 1 bedroom, outdated kitchen, but the windows faced east, and the morning sun flooded the living room with gold light. For 2 months, I rebuilt my life. I woke up early, went to the gym, worked on bridge designs and infrastructure projects, had lunch with colleagues who actually laughed with me, not at me. The ache of betrayal was still there. Some mornings I'd wake up and feel it like a bruise on my ribs, but most days I felt lighter, freer. I cut off everyone connected to Rebecca's world. The friends who'd watched her humiliate me and said nothing. The colleagues who'd treated me like a housebroken pet. Even the distant relatives who'd always taken her side. Silence became my power. Small-town whispers followed me. I'd catch looks at the grocery store. Overhear my name at the coffee shop. There's the guy Rebecca married, voices would say, trailing off into speculation. I learned to keep my head up, not from pride, but necessity. You can't stop people from talking, but you can choose how you walk through their judgment. One Saturday evening, my neighbor Bill invited me to a barbecue. Nothing fancy. Burgers on a charcoal grill, cheap beer, and mismatched lawn chairs. But it felt good, real. When someone made a joke at my expense, gentle, not cruel, I laughed. It felt like medicine. Life settled into a rhythm, quiet, productive, healing. Then came the knock at my door that changed everything. It was late afternoon. golden October light slanting across my apartment building's corridor. I almost didn't answer. I thought it was a delivery driver, but something made me open that door. And there stood Laura, Rebecca's younger sister. I hadn't seen her since the divorce was finalized. Laura was 28, 3 years younger than Rebecca. She'd always been the quiet one at family gatherings. The one who stood at the edges, watching but rarely speaking. Dark hair where Rebecca was blonde. Thoughtful where Rebecca was performative. I'd barely exchanged 50 words with her over 5 years of marriage. But there was nothing quiet about her now. She stood in my doorway, trembling slightly, not from fear, from determination. Her dark eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. "I can't stay silent anymore," she said. Her voice was firm, but carried an undercurrent of pain. "I watched her lie to you. I watched her destroy you while everyone laughed. And I said nothing." She took a breath, her hands curled into fists at her sides. "I watched you become invisible, watched you shrink, watched your light go out piece by piece. And I told myself it wasn't my place to speak. That family loyalty mattered more than truth." Her voice cracked. "But I was wrong. Silence is betrayal too, and I won't carry that guilt anymore." She stepped closer, close enough that I could see the unshed tears in her eyes. Close enough that I could see she meant every word. "You deserve to know the truth. You deserve someone who sees you, really sees you." Her next words hung in the air like smoke, like prayer, like a promise I didn't know I'd been waiting for. "I choose you, Mark, not out of pity, not out of rebellion. I choose you because you're a good man who deserves better than what my sister gave you. And I'm done pretending I don't see that." The world narrowed to this moment, to her standing in my doorway with the dying sunlight turning her hair copper, to the sound of my heart pounding in my ears, to the feeling of something breaking open in my chest. Not pain, but possibility. I stood frozen, unable to speak, unable to process what was happening. Because in my wildest imaginings of healing, of moving forward, I'd never imagined this. I stood there. In the doorway, the air between us charged with something I couldn't name. Laura's words echoed in my skull. "I choose you." 3 words that shouldn't have meant anything. 3 words that meant everything. "Come in," I finally managed. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. She stepped past me into the apartment. I noticed details I hadn't seen before. The way she moved carefully, like someone who'd learned to take up as little space as possible. The simple grey sweater and jeans she wore, nothing like Rebecca's designer armour. The absence of jewellery except for a thin silver chain at her neck. She looked around the apartment, at the bare walls where I hadn't bothered to hang anything, at the second-hand furniture I'd bought at an estate sale, at the small kitchen table where I ate solitary meals. "It feels peaceful here," she said softly, "like the weight is gone." I poured 2 glasses of water with shaking hands. We sat, her on the couch, me in the armchair across from her. The silence stretched between us, heavy with 5 years of unspoken truths. "Why now?" I asked finally. "Laura, why now? The divorce has been final for 2 months. You could have stayed silent forever." She looked down at her water glass, her fingers tracing the rim. "Because she's still lying. After everything, after the divorce, she's telling everyone you were cruel to her, that you abandoned her, that she's the victim in all this." Her voice hardened. "Last week, at my parents' house, she spent 2 hours crying to everyone about how you changed and became cold and distant, how you gave up on the marriage without even trying. My mother actually said you were probably having an affair. My father said you always seemed unstable." She looked up at me, anger flashing in her dark eyes. And I sat there, silent, again, letting her rewrite history, letting her paint herself as the wounded party while you carried the truth alone. I went home that night and couldn't sleep, kept seeing your face at that gala, the way you just took it. The way you'd learn to absorb her cruelty like it was normal. And I realized I was complicit. Every time I stayed quiet, I chose her lies over your dignity. Her hands trembled around the glass. I can't do it anymore. I won't. Something in my chest cracked open. For 2 months, I'd thought I was the only one who knew. The only one who'd seen the truth beneath Rebecca's performance. Hearing Laura confirm it, validate it, felt like oxygen after drowning. Do you know what it was like? The words spilled out before I could stop them. Sitting at family dinners while she made me the punchline. Smiling through the jokes. Pretending the laughter didn't kill me piece by piece. My voice shook. I thought I was going crazy. Thought maybe I was too sensitive, too weak, too boring. Maybe I did deserve it. No. Laura's voice cut through like a blade. No, Mark, you didn't deserve any of it. She leaned forward, her eyes fierce. I saw everything. Every smirk, every eye roll. Every time she twisted the knife while everyone laughed to keep the peace. I wanted to scream, but I was scared. Scared of what? Scared of being her next target. The admission came out raw. Rebecca doesn't just humiliate people, she destroys them. I've watched her do it my entire life. She did it to our cousin Sarah when we were teenagers, spread rumors that destroyed Sarah's reputation. She did it to a co-worker last year who challenged her in a meeting. Got the woman fired within a month. Laura's voice dropped. And she did it to me, growing up. Made me feel invisible, like I only existed to make her shine brighter. I learned early to stay quiet, stay small, stay out of her way. She looked at me with something like shame. But staying quiet about what she did to you? That's the worst thing I've ever done. And I can't carry it anymore. The honesty in her voice stripped away every defense I'd built. For the first time since Emily died, I felt truly seen. We talked for hours. She told me things I hadn't known. How Rebecca had bragged to her family about training me. How she'd laughed about making me quit my job, saying it was easy to manipulate engineers because they think logically, not emotionally. How she'd placed bets with her friends about what humiliating things she could make me do at social events. Each revelation was a knife, but also a vindication. I told her what it felt like to lose myself, to wake up one day and realize I didn't recognize the man in the mirror, to grieve for the person I used to be, someone who'd been confident, passionate about his work, full of ideas and energy. I used to design bridges, I said, the words catching in my throat. Beautiful functional structures that would last generations. I loved it. Emily used to say I'd talk about stress calculations and sustainable materials the way poets talk about sunsets. Laura smiled softly. You still do. Your eyes light up when you mention your work now. Did they? I hadn't noticed. After Emily died, I continued, Rebecca said I was dwelling in the past and using grief as an excuse to avoid social obligations. She threw away the box of Emily's things I'd kept, said I needed to move on. I'd never told anyone that. The words hung in the air, heavy with old pain. Laura reached across the space between us and took my hand. The gesture was simple, but her hand was warm, steady, real. I'm so sorry, she whispered. Emily deserved better. You deserved better. We sat like that for a long moment, her hand in mine, the afternoon fading into evening outside the window. Then she pulled back slightly, but didn't let go. Can I tell you something? I nodded. I had a fiancé once, 4 years ago. His name was David. We were planning the wedding. Nothing fancy, just a small ceremony. But Rebecca hated that I was getting married before her. Said it was inappropriate for the younger sister to go first. Laura's jaw tightened. She seduced him, deliberately, at my bridal shower. I caught them in my apartment bedroom. She was wearing my veil. The air left my lungs. Jesus, Laura. She said it was a test to see if he really loved me. Said if he was that easy to seduce, I should be grateful she saved me from a bad marriage. Laura's voice was hollow. My parents took her side, said I was overreacting, that David was the real villain, not Rebecca. I called off the wedding, lost most of my friends, because Rebecca convinced everyone I was unstable and made up stories for attention. I spent 2 years in therapy, learning that I wasn't crazy, that what happened was real and wrong. She looked at me with eyes that had seen too much. So when I say I understand what she does to people, I mean it. I've lived it. The parallels between us were staggering. We'd both been destroyed by the same person. Both gaslighted. Both made to feel like we were the problem. Why did you stay in contact with her? I asked. After what she did. Family pressure. My parents insisted. Said sisters should forgive and move forward. That I was holding grudges and being immature. She laughed bitterly. So I did what I always do. I stayed quiet, showed up at family events, pretended everything was fine. Until now, she confirmed. Because watching her destroy you was like watching her destroy David, destroy Sarah, destroy me. And I finally realized that silence makes me complicit. That staying quiet isn't keeping the peace. It's enabling abuse. The word hung between us. Abuse. I'd never used it, never let myself think it. But hearing Laura say it out loud gave me permission to name what I'd experienced. She abused me, I said slowly, testing the words. What she did, the humiliation, the isolation, the control, that was abuse. Yes, Laura said firmly. It was. Something shifted in that moment. A weight I'd been carrying without knowing lifted. The shame, the self-doubt, the wondering if I'd been too sensitive or weak. It fell away. I wasn't weak. I was a survivor. We talked until the sun set completely, until the apartment was dark, except for the glow of the streetlights outside. We talked about our childhoods, our dreams, the people we used to be before Rebecca's gravity pulled us into her orbit. Laura told me she worked as a paralegal at a small firm downtown, that she wanted to go to law school but had put it off for years, first because of the broken engagement, then because her parents said she should focus on finding someone to settle down with instead of wasting money on more education. I told her about my current project at Morrison Engineering, a pedestrian bridge over the river that would connect 2 parks, about how the design incorporated solar panels and rainwater collection, about how it felt to be doing meaningful work again. You're passionate about it, she observed. I can hear it in your voice. I forgot I could be passionate. About anything, I admitted. For so long I was just numb, going through motions. I know that feeling, she said quietly. When she finally stood to leave, she paused at the door, the same spot where she'd stood hours earlier, trembling with determination. Mark, she said, turning to face me, I meant what I said earlier, about choosing you. I'm not asking for anything. I'm not expecting anything. I just needed you to know that someone sees you, the real you, and that person is worth seeing. The sincerity in her voice threatened to undo me. Can I see you again? I asked. The words came out before I could second-guess them. A smile, small, genuine, crossed her face. I'd like that. Coffee tomorrow? Yes. She left. The door clicked shut. I stood there for a long time, my heart doing something it hadn't done in years. It was hoping. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her words playing on repeat. I choose you. Not in a romantic declaration, not yet, but in simple solidarity, in witness, in validation. For the first time since Emily died, I didn't feel alone. The next morning, I woke early, showered, actually cared what I wore. I picked the blue sweater Emily had given me for my 30th birthday, the one Rebecca had called frumpy and tried to throw away. I met Laura at a small cafe downtown, the kind with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. She was already there, sitting by the window with 2 coffees. "I remembered you take it black," she said, sliding a cup toward me. Such a small thing. But Rebecca had never remembered how I took my coffee. Not in 5 years. We talked about lighter things at first, books we'd read, movies we wanted to see, the weather, the city, the small details that make up a life. But eventually, the conversation deepened. "Can I ask you something?" Laura said, wrapping her hands around her coffee cup. "What made you finally leave? After years of everything?" I thought about the champagne glass shattering, the laughter, the moment of crystal clarity. "I couldn't hear Emily's voice anymore," I said quietly. "For years after she died, I'd imagine what she'd say to me, her advice, her humor. It helped me feel less alone. But that night at the gala, when Rebecca was performing for everyone, when I was on the floor with broken glass around me, I tried to hear Emily, and there was nothing, just silence." My throat tightened. I realized I'd let Rebecca erase so much of me that even my memory of my sister was disappearing. And I thought, if I stay, there won't be anything left. I'll just be this hollow thing that exists to make her look good. Laura's eyes glistened. "So you chose yourself?" "I chose survival." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Emily would be proud of you." Those words hit me harder than any insult Rebecca had ever thrown. Because they were true. Emily would be proud. She'd be standing in my apartment doing that little victory dance she used to do, saying, "I told you so," with her bright smile. "Thank you," I whispered. We stayed at that cafe for 3 hours, then walked through the park, then had lunch at a small sandwich shop. The day stretched out like a gift. There was no romantic tension, not yet. Just the easy comfort of 2 people who'd survived the same storm, finding solid ground together. Over the next few weeks, we saw each other often. Coffee dates, walks along the river, long phone calls that stretched late into the night. She told me about her law school dreams. I told her about my bridge designs. We traded stories about our childhoods, our hopes, the people we wanted to become. With her, I didn't feel the need to perform, didn't need to brace myself against criticism. She looked at me like I was enough, like I'd always been enough. One evening, about 3 weeks after that first knock on my door, we were walking through the park when Laura's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and her face tightened. "My mother," she said. "You don't have to answer." "I do." She sighed. "If I don't, she'll just keep calling." She answered. "Hi, Mom." I watched her face change as she listened, watched the color drain from her cheeks, watched her jaw set with tension. "No," she said firmly. "I'm not coming to Sunday dinner, because I don't want to sit there while everyone pretends Rebecca is a victim. No, I'm not choosing sides. I'm choosing honesty." A pause. Then, "Actually, there's something you should know. I've been spending time with Mark." I could hear the explosion through the phone even from 3 feet away. Laura held the phone away from her ear slightly, her expression unchanging. When her mother finally stopped shouting, Laura spoke with icy calm. "I'm 30 years old. I don't need your permission for my friendships. Yes, I know he's Rebecca's ex-husband. I also know he's a good man who she treated terribly while all of you watched and said nothing." Another eruption. Laura's hand tightened on the phone. "I'm done, Mom. Done pretending. Done protecting her reputation. Done sacrificing my integrity for family unity." Her voice shook slightly but held firm. "Mark is in my life now. If you can't accept that, then we have nothing more to discuss." She hung up. For a long moment, she just stood there, breathing hard, staring at the phone like it might explode. "Laura," I started. "I'm okay," she said quickly. Then, more honestly, "I'm not okay, but I will be." We sat on a park bench, I didn't try to fix it. Just sat beside her while she processed what she'd done. I just blew up my family, she said finally. You stood up for yourself. And for me. They're going to make me the villain. Rebecca will play the victim. My parents will take her side like they always do. She laughed hollowly. I'll be the traitor sister who stole her sister's ex-husband. We're not together, I pointed out gently. She looked at me, then really looked at me. Not yet. But Mark, I think we both know where this is heading. My heart kicked against my ribs. Are we? I don't know, she said honestly. Maybe, if you want that, if you're ready for that. Was I ready? 2 months ago I'd signed divorce papers. I was barely healed, barely functional. The idea of opening myself up to someone new, especially to my ex-wife's sister, should have terrified me. But sitting there on that bench with Laura, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Safe. I don't know if I'm ready, I admitted, but I know I don't want to lose this, whatever this is. She smiled. Small, real, hopeful. Then we'll figure it out. Together. No rush. But the universe had other plans. That night, my phone exploded with messages, not from Rebecca, I'd blocked her months ago, but from numbers I didn't recognize. Unknown. You're disgusting. Going after her sister. Unknown. Rebecca deserves better than this betrayal. Unknown. Hope you're happy destroying a family. Then came the social media attacks. I'd deleted most of my accounts after the divorce, but apparently someone had found old photos. Posts about me and Laura started circulating. Vicious, cruel accusations. Laura called me at midnight, her voice tight. Have you seen it? Yeah. Mark, I'm so sorry. Rebecca must have. It's not your fault. I kept my voice steady, even though rage was building in my chest. This is what she does. She can't control the narrative, so she's trying to destroy it. What do we do? Nothing, I said. We don't engage, don't respond, don't play her game. But people are saying terrible things. Let them. I surprised myself with the calm in my voice. The people who matter know the truth. Everyone else? They were never on our side anyway. There was a long pause. Then Laura said, You're stronger than I realized. No, I corrected. I'm just done giving her power. For a week, the digital storm raged. Rebecca's friends posted long diatribes about loyalty and betrayal. My old mutual acquaintances weighed in with performances of moral outrage. The social media mob had their torches and pitchforks ready. Laura and I ignored all of it. Instead, we lived our lives. She came over for dinner. I met her for coffee before work. We went to a movie, walked through the botanical gardens, had long conversations about everything and nothing, and slowly, inevitably, what had started as solidarity began to shift into something more. It happened on a Tuesday morning, 6 weeks after Laura first knocked on my door. I was at Morrison Engineering, reviewing structural calculations for the pedestrian bridge project, when Robert Chen knocked on my office door. His face was tight with tension. Mark, we have a problem. Bradford Technologies just called an emergency meeting. They want all key personnel on the riverfront project there in an hour. My stomach dropped. Bradford Technologies was one of our major stakeholders. Their headquarters sat on the land adjacent to where our bridge would connect. Marcus Bradford himself had final approval on all design elements. What's it about? They wouldn't say, just said it was urgent. Robert's expression darkened. Mark, I need to tell you something. There have been complaints about you. Someone contacted Bradford's office claiming you're unreliable, that you have personal issues affecting your professional judgment. The blood drained from my face. Rebecca, I don't know who, but the email mentioned your recent divorce and made some serious allegations about your mental stability. Robert held up a hand. I defended you, told them you're one of my best engineers. But Bradford wants to meet you personally before he'll approve moving forward with you on the project. An hour later, I walked into Bradford Technologies' headquarters. The building was a glass and steel monument to wealth, 40 stories of cutting-edge architecture in the heart of downtown. The lobby alone probably cost more than most people's houses. I was escorted to the top floor by a nervous-looking assistant. She led me to a massive conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. And there, standing with his back to the door, was Marcus Bradford. "Mr. Sullivan." He turned, those sharp blue eyes assessing me the same way they had at the gala. "Thank you for coming on short notice." "Of course, Mr. Bradford. Please, sit." He gestured to the conference table. "I'll be direct. I received a concerning email yesterday regarding your involvement in our project. It alleged that you're going through a difficult divorce, that you've been behaving erratically, and that you may not be mentally fit for a project of this magnitude." He slid a printed email across the table. I didn't need to read it to know who sent it. But I read it anyway. The email was a masterpiece of manipulation. It never explicitly named Rebecca, but mentioned being a concerned party with personal knowledge of Mr. Sullivan's recent breakdown. It cited my sudden abandonment of previous employment and increasingly unstable behavior patterns. It suggested I was pursuing inappropriate relationships and showing signs of emotional volatility. Every word was carefully crafted to sound concerned rather than malicious, to plant doubt without making direct accusations. "This is from my ex-wife," I said flatly, "or someone acting on her behalf." Bradford's eyebrow raised. I suspected as much. The email came from an anonymous account, but the details were specific. Too specific to be from a stranger. "Mr. Bradford, I'm going to be honest with you." I met his eyes directly. "My ex-wife works in your marketing department, Rebecca Sullivan. We divorced 3 months ago after she spent years publicly humiliating me. You witnessed some of it yourself at the annual gala." Recognition flickered across his face. "The champagne incident." "Yes, I walked out that night, filed for divorce the next day. Since then, she's been running a campaign to destroy my reputation because I refused to play the victim she wanted me to be." I pushed the email back across the table. "Everything in here is a lie. I didn't have a breakdown. I didn't abandon my previous employment. I left voluntarily after my marriage ended, and I'm not unstable. I'm healing from years of emotional abuse." The words came out steady, clear. 6 months ago, I couldn't have said them. Now they were simply facts. Bradford leaned back in his chair, studying me. "Why are you telling me this? You could have denied it, claimed it was slander from a competitor." "Because I'm done hiding, done pretending. If my past disqualifies me from this project, I'd rather know now than live waiting for the other shoe to drop." A long silence. Then Bradford did something unexpected. He laughed, not mockingly, genuinely. "Mr. Sullivan, I've built a $30 billion company by reading people, and I'm reading you right now." He leaned forward. "You're not unstable, you're honest. That's rarer than you might think, especially in this industry." He picked up his phone and made a call. "Jennifer, I need you to pull Rebecca Sullivan's employment file. Yes, now. And schedule her for a meeting with HR this afternoon." He hung up and looked at me. "I don't tolerate workplace harassment. If Ms. Sullivan is using company resources or her position here to sabotage your career, that's grounds for termination. Mr. Bradford, I'm not asking you to fire her. I'm not doing it for you," he interrupted. "I'm doing it because toxic people destroy company culture. I should have paid more attention that night at the gala. I saw what happened. I dismissed it as personal drama. That was a failure of leadership on my part." He stood, extending his hand. "Your work on the bridge design is excellent. Robert Chen speaks highly of your integrity. You're staying on the project, and Miss Sullivan will be dealt with appropriately." I shook his hand, stunned. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. Just build a beautiful bridge." He smiled slightly. "And Mr. Sullivan, the best revenge against people who try to break you is to succeed anyway, spectacularly." I left that meeting feeling lighter than I had in months. For the first time, someone in power had actually listened, had seen through Rebecca's manipulation, had chosen truth over convenience. I called Laura immediately. "He believed me," I said, the words tumbling out. "Bradford actually believed me." "Of course he did." I could hear the smile in her voice. "Because you told the truth." That evening, Laura came over. We'd fallen into a routine now. She'd bring takeout, I'd make coffee, and we'd sit on my second-hand couch talking until late. But tonight felt different. The air between us was charged with something unspoken. "Mark," she said softly, setting down her coffee. "I need to tell you something." My heart rate picked up. "Okay." "I'm falling in love with you." The words came out in a rush. "I know it's too soon. I know it's complicated. I know people will judge us, but I can't keep pretending this is just friendship. It stopped being just friendship weeks ago." She looked at me with those dark eyes that saw everything. "You don't have to say it back. You don't have to feel the same way. But I needed to be honest, because watching you be honest, with Bradford, with yourself, reminded me that truth matters more than comfort." The room felt too small and too large all at once. My chest ached with something that wasn't pain. "I'm terrified," I admitted, "of getting hurt again, of letting someone close, of making the same mistakes." "I know. But Laura," I reached for her hand. "When I'm with you, I remember who I was before, who I wanted to be. You make me feel like that person is still possible." "He is possible," she whispered. "He's right here." I kissed her then. Soft, tentative, real. Not the desperate passion of romance novels, but something steadier. Something that felt like coming home after years of being lost. When we pulled apart, she was smiling. "So, are we doing this?" "I think we already are." For 2 weeks, we existed in our own world. She stayed over some nights. I cooked breakfast while she sat at my kitchen table grading the paralegal work she was doing online. We talked about her applying to law schools, about my bridge design, about building something real together. It felt fragile and strong all at once, like the first shoots of green after a forest fire. But storms don't wait for you to be ready. It was a Saturday afternoon when everything exploded. Laura and I were at the downtown farmers market, looking at produce and talking about dinner plans. The day was warm, the market crowded with weekend shoppers. We were standing at a vegetable stand when I heard a voice that made my blood run cold. "Well, well, isn't this cozy?" We turned. Rebecca stood 10 feet away, designer sunglasses pushed up on her head, a shopping bag from an expensive boutique hanging from her arm. But it wasn't Rebecca that made my stomach drop. It was the woman standing next to her, Laura's mother, Patricia. "Mum." Laura's voice was small, uncertain. Patricia's face was carved from ice. "I came downtown to meet your sister for lunch. Imagine my surprise when she told me you'd be here. With him." "We're just shopping," Laura started. "Don't lie to me." Patricia's voice carried across the market. People were starting to stare. "Your father and I heard the rumors. We didn't want to believe them. But here you are, parading around with your sister's husband." "Ex-husband," I corrected quietly. "And I'm not parading. We're buying vegetables." Rebecca laughed, that sharp, cruel sound I remembered too well. "Oh, Mark. Still so literal. Still so boring." She turned to Laura. "I have to hand it to you, little sister. I didn't think you had it in you. Stealing my husband. That's actually impressive." "I didn't steal anything," Laura said. Her voice was shaking, but held firm. "You threw him away. You humiliated him for years. You destroyed him for entertainment. I chose to see him when no one else would." "How noble." Rebecca's smile was venomous. The heroic little sister, saving the broken man. "Do you feel special now, Laura? Do you finally feel like you matter?" Rebecca, that's enough, I said. Or what? She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a hiss. You'll leave me. Oh wait, you already did. And now you're what? Punishing me by sleeping with my sister? How pathetically predictable. I'm not punishing anyone, I said evenly. I'm living my life. Something you made impossible when we were married. Patricia grabbed Laura's arm. You're coming home with me right now. This is insane. This is... Let go of me. Laura pulled her arm free. I'm not going anywhere. Laura, think about what you're doing. Patricia's voice rose. This man destroyed your sister's marriage. He abandoned her when she needed him most, and now he's manipulating you. He didn't destroy anything. Laura's voice cracked like a whip. The entire market seemed to stop. She destroyed him. I watched her do it for 5 years. Every dinner, every party, every gathering, she made him a joke. She humiliated him. She broke him down piece by piece while all of you laughed. Tears streamed down her face now, but her voice didn't waver. And when he finally had the courage to leave, you all called him the villain, made him the bad guy, protected her reputation while he carried the truth alone. Well, I'm done protecting her. I'm done lying for family unity. Mark is the bravest man I know, and Laura, sweetie, Laura! The shout came from behind us. We all turned. An elderly woman, maybe 70, with white hair and a floral dress, was waving frantically from across the market street. But she wasn't looking at us. She was pointing behind us, at a little boy, maybe 4 years old, who had wandered into the street, who was standing frozen in the middle of the intersection, staring at an SUV that was speeding toward him, the driver distracted by their phone. Everything happened in slow motion and all at once. Laura didn't think, didn't hesitate. She ran. Her body moved before my brain could process what was happening. She was fast, faster than I knew, her legs pumping as she sprinted into the street. The SUV was 30 feet away. 20. 15. Laura reached the boy, grabbed him, pushed him toward the sidewalk with all her strength. The child tumbled safely onto the curb, but Laura was still in the street, 10 feet, 5. Laura! I was already running, but I was too far away, too slow, too late. The screech of brakes, the sickening thud of metal hitting flesh. Laura's body flew through the air like a rag doll. She hit the pavement 15 feet away and didn't move. Time stopped. The world narrowed to her crumpled form on the asphalt, to the growing pool of blood beneath her head, to the terrible, endless silence. Then sound rushed back in, screaming, crying. The SUV driver stumbling out of their car, hands shaking. Someone yelling, "Call 911!" I ran to her, dropped to my knees beside her broken body. Her eyes were closed. Blood matted her dark hair. Her left arm was bent at an unnatural angle. Laura. My hands hovered over her, afraid to touch, afraid to hurt her more. Laura, stay with me, please, please stay with me. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused, struggling. The boy, she whispered. He's safe. You saved him. Tears were streaming down my face. You saved him, Laura. Now stay with me. The ambulance is coming. Just stay. She tried to smile. Couldn't let him die. You're not going to die either. Do you hear me? You're not leaving me. I just found you. You don't get to leave now. People crowded around us. Someone pressed a jacket against the wound on her head. The elderly woman was sobbing, clutching the little boy who was crying and calling for his mother. And standing at the edge of the crowd, her face white as snow, was Rebecca. For the first time in the years I'd known her, she wasn't performing. The mask was gone. She was staring at her sister's broken body with something like horror dawning in her eyes. Patricia pushed through the crowd, saw Laura, made a sound like a wounded animal. "What did you do?" she screamed at me. "What did you—" "She saved a child," someone in the crowd said. "She saved that little boy's life." The sirens were getting closer. Laura's eyes started to close. "No, no, no." I cupped her face gently. "Laura, look at me. Stay with me. Please, I love you. Do you hear me? I love you. Her eyes opened slightly. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. Knew you'd... Say it. Eventually. She breathed. Then her eyes closed. The paramedics arrived, pushed me aside, worked with efficient urgency. I watched them lift her onto a stretcher, watched them load her into the ambulance, watched the doors close. Family only, one paramedic said. I'm her sister, Rebecca said quietly. She looked at me. For once, there was no cruelty in her eyes, just devastation. I'll make sure they let you in. Come with us. I climbed into the ambulance, sat across from Rebecca as the paramedics worked on Laura. We didn't speak. What was there to say? Laura's blood stained my hands, my shirt, my jeans. All I could think was, she chose to run. She chose to save that child. She chose courage when she could have chosen safety. Just like she'd chosen me when she could have chosen silence. The hospital was chaos. Emergency room, doctors shouting medical terms, forms to fill out, waiting rooms with fluorescent lights that hummed like dying insects. Rebecca sat beside me in the plastic chairs. Patricia arrived 20 minutes later, her face streaked with tears. Then Laura's father, Michael, a tall man with grey hair who looked like he'd aged 10 years in the drive over. We sat in silence, the four of us, bound by fear. Hours passed. A doctor emerged periodically with updates. Skull fracture, internal bleeding, broken arm and ribs, surgery needed, critical condition. Each word was a hammer blow. She jumped in front of a car, Patricia whispered at one point. She saw that child and just ran. That's Laura, Rebecca said softly. She's always been brave. Braver than me. Her voice cracked. I never told her that. I looked at her, really looked at her. Rebecca's makeup was smeared. Her designer clothes were wrinkled. The perfect mask she wore had shattered. Why did you hate me? I asked. Not angry, just tired. What did I do that made you treat me like that? She was quiet for a long time. Then, you didn't do anything. That's the point. I frowned. You were good, she continued, staring at her hands. Kind, patient. And it made me feel like a fraud. Because I'm not good. I'm ambitious and ruthless, and I've stepped on people my whole life to get ahead. Having someone like you, someone genuinely decent, made me face what I actually am. She looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. So I destroyed you. Made you small so I could feel big. Made you the joke so I didn't have to examine why I needed to be cruel to feel powerful. And Laura's always been everything I'm not. Honest, compassionate, real. Rebecca's voice broke. I spent our whole lives punishing her for being better than me, for making me look bad just by existing. And now she's in there dying, and all I can think is that she's a hero and I'm human, I finished. Flawed and human. Monstrous. Maybe, I said honestly. But you're here. That counts for something. 7 hours after the accident, a surgeon emerged. We all stood. Laura's out of surgery. We stopped the internal bleeding and relieved the pressure on her brain. The next 48 hours are critical, but she's fighting. She's a fighter. I nearly collapsed with relief. Can we see her? Patricia asked. Immediate family only, one at a time. She's unconscious, but you can sit with her. Patricia went first, then Michael. Then Rebecca hesitated at the door. You should go, she said to me. You're more family to her than I ever was. Rebecca, please. It wasn't manipulation. It was genuine. She'd want you there. I went in. Laura lay in the hospital bed, surrounded by machines. Tubes and wires everywhere. Her head was bandaged, her arm in a cast. Her face was pale, bruised, but still her. I sat beside the bed and took her uninjured hand. You scared me, I whispered. You can't do that. You can't be this brave and then leave me alone. I just told you I loved you. You have to wake up so I can tell you again. So I can tell you every day for the rest of our lives." Her fingers twitched slightly in mine. Or maybe I imagined it. I stayed there for an hour before a nurse gently told me visiting hours were over. I left my phone number, made them promise to call if anything changed. Then I went home, showered, couldn't wash away the memory of her blood on my hands. I called in sick to work. Robert understood immediately when I told him what happened. For 2 days, I lived at the hospital, drank terrible coffee, ate vending machine food, sat in waiting rooms, took brief visits to Laura's room when allowed. Rebecca was there often too. She and I barely spoke, but there was an unspoken truce between us. Shared fear is a powerful equalizer. On the 3rd day, Laura woke up. I was sitting beside her bed, reading engineering journals I couldn't focus on, when her eyes opened. "Mark?" Her voice was hoarse. "I'm here." I grabbed her hand. "I'm right here." "The boy?" "Safe. Completely fine. You saved him, Laura. You're a hero." She smiled weakly. "Just did. What anyone would." "No." I leaned closer. "You did what you would. Because you're brave. Because you see someone in danger and you run toward it, not away." "Stupid," she breathed. "Courageous." Her eyes found mine. "Did you mean it? What you said?" "Every word. I love you, Laura. I've probably loved you since you knocked on my door and chose truth over silence." Tears slipped down her temples. "I love you too." I kissed her forehead gently, carefully, like she was made of glass. "Your family's here," I said. "Do you want to see them?" She nodded. Patricia came in first, broke down sobbing, apologized over and over. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't see. I didn't want to see." Then Michael, gruff and quiet, holding his daughter's hand like she might disappear. Then Rebecca. She stood at the door for a long moment before entering, approached the bed slowly. "Hi," Laura said softly. "Hi." Rebecca's voice was thick. "You almost died." "But I didn't. You saved that kid. Threw yourself in front of a car without thinking." Rebecca wiped her eyes. "I've never done anything that selfless in my entire life." "Yes, you have," Laura said. "You just don't remember." "When?" "You're here now. That's something." Rebecca sat in the chair, looked at her hands. "I'm sorry for everything, for David, for every cruel thing I've ever said or done, for making you feel invisible, for—" "I know," Laura interrupted gently. "I forgive you." "How?" Rebecca looked up, tears streaming. "How can you forgive me?" "Because holding on to hate would make me like you used to be, and I choose to be different." The words hung in the air, simple, devastating, true. Rebecca nodded, stood. "I'll let you rest. But Laura, I'm going to be better. I don't know how yet, but I'm going to try." She left. I stayed. Laura's recovery was slow. She spent another week in the hospital, then months of physical therapy, learning to walk without dizziness, dealing with headaches, processing the trauma. I was there for all of it. I drove her to appointments, helped with exercises, sat with her on bad days when the pain was too much, celebrated small victories like climbing stairs without help or going a whole day without painkillers. Slowly, she healed. During those months, things shifted. Rebecca quit her job at Bradford Technologies before she could be fired. She apologized publicly to me via email, though I never asked her to. She started therapy, cut back on drinking. I didn't trust the transformation, not yet. But I acknowledged it. Patricia and Michael came around too, slowly, awkwardly. They invited us to Sunday dinners, asked about Laura's recovery, treated me like a person rather than an interloper. Progress, not perfection. 6 months after the accident, Laura got her acceptance letter to law school. We celebrated in my apartment, Now our apartment, with cheap champagne and takeout. I'm scared, she admitted. It's 3 years. It's hard. What if I fail? You won't fail, I said. You're the woman who ran into traffic to save a child. Law school's got nothing on you. She laughed, then grew serious. Mark, I need to tell you something. My heart skipped. Okay. I'm not going to be easy to love. I have nightmares now, PTSD from the accident. Some days I can barely function. I'm going to be stressed and busy and… I kissed her. Laura, you saw me at my lowest, broken, humiliated, lost, and you chose me anyway. Did you think I wouldn't do the same? It's different. It's not. I pulled back, holding her face gently. We're both broken and healing. We're both scared, but we're doing it together. That's what matters. She smiled through tears. Together. Together. 1 year after that knock on my door that changed everything, I stood at the opening ceremony for the pedestrian bridge I'd designed. The structure was beautiful, sleek lines, solar panels glinting in the sun, spanning the river to connect 2 parks. Laura stood beside me, her hand in mine. She was in her 2nd year of law school, top of her class, thriving. Marcus Bradford gave a speech about innovation and community, mentioned me by name as the lead engineer, called the bridge a testament to resilience and vision. After the ceremony, he shook my hand. Beautiful work, Sullivan. I knew you had it in you. Thank you, Mr. Bradford. Marcus, he corrected. And I hear congratulations are in order. He glanced at Laura. I saw the announcement, law school and top marks. Laura smiled. I'm trying. You're succeeding. He looked between us. You two are proof that sometimes the best things come from the worst circumstances. Keep building, both of you. He walked away, leaving us standing on the bridge as the sun set over the river. He's right, Laura said softly, about the best things coming from the worst circumstances. You think so? I know so. She leaned her head on my shoulder. A year ago, I was invisible, living in her shadow, too scared to speak, too scared to live. And now? Now I'm choosing law school, choosing courage, choosing you every day. She looked up at me. You taught me that. Walking away from her taught me that standing up is possible, that choosing yourself isn't selfish. That truth matters more than peace. You taught me the same thing, I said. You knocked on my door when you could have stayed silent. You chose truth when you could have chosen comfort. You ran into traffic when you could have looked away. You're the bravest person I know. We're both brave, she corrected. Together. People crossed the bridge around us. Families, couples, kids on bicycles, all of them using something I'd built, something that would last long after I was gone. It felt right. Full circle. Building something permanent after so many years of destruction. Mark, Laura said. Yeah? Thank you. For being you. For surviving. For letting me in. Thank you for choosing me. We stood there as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. 2 people who'd been broken by the same person, finding wholeness in each other. And I realized something profound. Sometimes the people who break you teach you about pain, but the people who help you heal teach you about love, about resilience, about the strength it takes to stand up, speak truth, and choose courage when silence would be easier. Rebecca had taught me about betrayal. Laura had taught me about redemption. And together we'd learned that sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destruction. It's healing. It's building something beautiful from the ruins. It's choosing to live fully when someone tried to make you small. 6 months later, I proposed on that bridge at sunset. Laura said yes before I finished asking. We got married a year after that. Small ceremony. Just close friends. Robert Chen was my best man. Patricia and Michael walked Laura down the aisle. Even Rebecca came, sitting in the back, watching quietly. After the ceremony, she approached us. I'm proud of you, she said to Laura. Then, to me, thank you for loving her better than I ever could. It wasn't forgiveness, not completely, but it was acknowledgement, growth, change. Take care of each other, Rebecca said, then walked away. We did. Laura graduated law school and joined a non-profit fighting for domestic abuse survivors. She said her past had given her purpose, helping others escape the cycles she and I had survived. I designed 3 more bridges, won awards, taught graduate courses on sustainable engineering. We bought a house with a view of the river, adopted a rescue dog named Emily, built a life filled with quiet mornings, shared dreams, and the kind of peace that comes from choosing each other every single day. Sometimes at night, lying beside her, I think about that moment at the gala, the champagne glass shattering, the laughter, the moment I decided I'd had enough. If I hadn't walked away that night, none of this would exist. The bridge, the healing, the love, the life we'd built. Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best transformations. Sometimes you have to break completely before you can rebuild into something stronger. And sometimes, when you least expect it, someone knocks on your door and says, "I choose you." That choice changes everything. If this story touched you, if you've ever felt invisible or chosen courage over comfort, leave a comment below. Share where you're watching from. Your story matters, your healing matters. And remember, the bravest thing you can do is choose yourself, even when the world tells you to stay small. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Every share reminds someone that they're not alone, that transformation is possible, that love can grow even in the ruins of betrayal. You are not your worst moment. You are not the cruelty others showed you. You are your courage, your resilience, and your choice to keep building even when everything falls apart. Choose yourself. Choose truth. Choose courage. And never, ever let anyone make you feel small again.